Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, information webinar, organised by DAFM Organic Division on organics imports. The objective is to give an update on organic import requirements. I'm Seamus Barron in the Organic Division based in Johnstown Castle in Wexford. There are a number of new developments that are fairly relevant, and I suppose the first one is there's new organic imports legislation that's come into effect in January of this year, which lays down very prescriptive requirements for organic imports. Does the impact of Brexit as a result of the UK becoming a third country, the number of consignments from GB is considerable. So that means there's a considerable number, increased number of organic imports that are coming under the under controls because of Brexit. The COI Ched blocking rule was activated recently. It was activated on the 9th of May. So that means in order for a Ched to be cleared, the COI, the certificate, the organic certificate of inspection has to be validated beforehand. So that makes it very important for a COI to be presented in the right manner, in a timely manner, with all the relevant, all the required information to ensure that there's no delay in validating the COI and clearing the Ched. I suppose another new development is we have the import portal, which is now live. This is used for declaration and advanced notification of organic consignments. And finally, we have the customs single window. The EU Certex single window is mandatory from the 1st of March 2023, and it's important that importers are aware of the new requirements. So the agenda is, I'm very briefly going to outline the new import legislation. My colleague Kevin McGeever in the Organic Division of DAFM will give an overview of the organic import system. Odile Evans, also in the DAFM Organic Division, will cover inspections and sampling of organic consignments. Sheehy will outline the requirements for submitting the advanced notification on the new import portal. And finally, we'll have an update on the single window, and this will be given by Joe Cleary and not Emer Murphy. So I suppose the legislative basis, there's a number of pieces of legislation that are relevant. We have the official controls regulation, which lays down provisions there for official controls on food and feed. That's regulation 625/2017, and it makes certain points as regards organics. Then we have the Organic Basic Act, which came into effect in January of this year, and that's Commission Regulation 848 of 2018. And that sets out that official controls of organic consignments must take place at border control points. And then we have the secondary legislation, which gives very prescriptive requirements for import controls. We have Regulation 2306 of 2021, which details official controls on organic consignments and covers issues such as a COI has to be raised by the control body in the third country that has the responsibility for the consignments. Official controls must take place at a border control point or a designated point of release for free circulation for low risk consignments. And the official controls include a documentary check on all consignments, and that's the check of the certificate of inspection, and that's what Kevin will be covering. Official controls also cover random identity checks, and finally cover physical checks on consignments that's carried out on the risk base, and Odile will be covering that aspect. There's also Regulation 2307 of 2021, which lays down rules on documents and lays down the requirement for advanced notification of at least 24 hours. And the completion also covers the completion of the COI on traces. We have Regulation 2325 of 2021, which gives a list of the recognised third countries, control bodies, organic control bodies and control authorities to certify organic produce for export to the EU. And finally, we have Regulation 2305 of 2021, which provides for cases where organic products are exempt from controls at BCPs, and that will be for low risk products. So that covers the legislation. There's opportunity for people here to type in their questions in the chat function, and we'll endeavour to answer the questions as we go along. So
sorry to interrupt there, Seamus. It's to be typed into the questions section. Do not type them into the chat section. Thanks very much. Please excuse me.
Okay, thanks, Bart. Okay, so we'll now hand over to Kevin.
Now, good afternoon, everybody. As Seamus has mentioned, I work in the organics unit, and I want to give you an overview of the organic import system and how the whole procedure works. So just to give people an idea of the amount of organic imports that are coming through into the Republic of Ireland. This has increased substantially since Brexit. So if you look at the figures there, in 2019 we had 257 COIs, and in 2020 208. So that was the type of numbers we were looking at. And then we look at 2021 and we have over 5,000, and over 3,000 of which came from the UK, and the UK now being deemed to be a third country outside the EU. So organic goods can be imported into the following BCPs, or border control points. So Dublin Port, Dublin Airport, Shannon Airport, Rosslare Europort are the border control posts designated for the importation of animals, products of animal origin, composite products, germinating products, animal byproducts, and hay and straw. And then we have Dublin Port, Dublin Airport, Rosslare Europort are also border control posts designated for the importation of goods of non-animal origin. That would be plant and plant products. And there's no other BCP or border control post currently designated for the importation of organic products. Under the Organic Regulation 848 of 2018, it is stated the requirements for organic certification. So Article 34 outlines, prior to placing any products on the market, operators and groups of operators who produce, distribute or store organic or in conversion products, and which import them from a third country, they must outline this activity to the competent authority, so Ireland in this case, and we carry out the checks then to ensure that everything is done to the letter of the law and to the regulation. So operators that sell pre-packed products directly to the final consumer, they are exempted from the notification obligation, provided that they do not produce, prepare, store, other than in connection with the point of sale, or import such products from a third country, or subcontract such activity to another. And then with regard to subcontracting, where operators or group of operators subcontract any of the activities to third parties, both the operators and the third parties to whom these activities have been subcontracted must be registered on the system, must have an organic license to do so. So a licensed importer, all organic importers must be registered with an organic control body here in Ireland. So if we think about it, the product is coming from, let's say, Peru, for argument's sake. So they are registered with an organic body over there and fully compliant, and then they must have a registered organic, must be registered with an organic control body here in Ireland also, the importer. They must have a valid organic license in place for this transaction, and they must be registered on the organic portal of Traces. That's where we're talking about the COI, which I'll go into in more detail shortly. And with regard to the customs import declaration, organic products must be declared on the customs import declaration by the use of the code C644. And if you don't use 644, you basically have to declare that the goods are not organic products by entering Y929. And if both codes are declared, the declaration will be rejected. So we're putting the onus back on the operator to declare one or the other. So looking at a COI, a certificate of organic inspection, the certificate of inspection is raised by the control body for each consignment on the Traces system. It is endorsed then by the relevant member state's competent authority, in this case Ireland, and then it is completed by the first consignee. That's the person, the company responsible for the load here in Ireland. And this is all done using the Traces system, or the Trade Control and Expert system. So the COI, or the certificate of inspection, so the control body or the control authority that issues the COI in the third country should only issue the COI after it has carried out the relevant documentary checks on the basis of all relevant inspection documents, including the production plan for the product, transport documents, commercial documents, and according to a risk assessment, if that is appropriate, and it has carried out a physical check of the consignment. So the key status on the Traces system: first stage is the description completed. So that's the first stage in the process when the COI is raised on Traces. Then the issuing body declaration signed. So this is the organic control body sign off. Then the next stage is we in the Department of Agriculture, as a competent authority, would verify the consignment, and then the final stage then is the first consignee here, as in the company or the persons responsible for the load, will sign off the declaration. So on the traces system, so endorsement of the COI or an extract of the COI, whatever the case may be, verification at the border control post, and all done by the competent authority. And for the purposes of the decision then, so it is to be released as organic, to be released as in conversion. If there's any issue, it may be released as non-organic, so it loses its organic status for one reason or another. Another thing, cannot be released for free circulation, so it's lost its organic status, but is also, there is an issue with the quality of the product, and it cannot be released for free circulation. And or part of the consignment can be released for free circulation, and that would be determined by the authorities here in Ireland. So on the trace system, the declaration of the first consignee. So basically, this is the company saying that this is to confirm that the product, the packaging, and are all, and they tick the box in accordance with the regulation, either Annex 3 of 848 or not in accordance, and signed off. So just to show the steps that are taken. So first, advance notification received to the competent authority here in Ireland. The relevant documentary checks are carried out by ourselves. Some product, well, it all goes through risk analysis, and some products then will go forward for an identity check. Possibility then that sampling would be carried out, and then finally verification of the COI. And just to mention the EU organic logo, that's the leaf, the organic leaf. So for the use of the logo on imported products, it's optional, but when it is used, you must have the code number of the control body and the place of farming, be it a non-EU agriculture or the country. And now Odile will go through the inspection side of things. So I'll just hand over to Odile now. And thank you very much for your time.
Odile, Kevin, before Odile comes in, I see there's a question. I'm not sure if it's a question for yourself, Kevin, or maybe it's for revenue. What code or information should be put in the description box when using code 644?
So code 644 is declaring that the product is organic. So that will alert us to say that this particular product is registered organic and will be sold with the intention of being sold as organic in the competent, in the jurisdiction in Ireland. I don't know, our colleagues in revenue, have you anything else to add to that?
Yeah, maybe Joe Cleary.
Yeah, I can come in there. Code C644 is on the customs import declaration in AIS, and it goes in data element 2.3 on the declaration, and it's the certificate number. The COI certificate number must follow the code C644, and it's important. That's extremely important in terms of what I'm going to be talking about later on. So the certificate number, the traces certificate number on the COI certificate should follow C644.
Okay, thanks for that, Joe. Okay, so listen, we'll move on here.
Excuse me, Seamus, just very briefly, I just want to let you know that Hazel McGarry has also put her hand up to ask a question. So it might be that Hazel unmutes herself and ask the question in person. Oh, she's taken her hand down now, so right, she's unasked the question, I guess. Okay, please excuse me. Okay, we're going on to Odile now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it's going to be presented by Odile. Okay, and just bear with me a moment.
No, it's the same slides, Bart. Kevin's slide is fine. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
So thanks to that, Kevin. So as you will have seen on Kevin's slides there a few moments ago, you have the advance notification, the documentary check, and then the risk analysis. So we do our import sampling on the basis of risk, as we're required to do under the legislation, and we base it on things like the import volume and information on non-compliances, which are reported across Europe, so the likelihood of non-compliance. Control measures shall be carried out on all consignments of organic food and feed originating from third countries and entering the Union directly from those third countries, or, and this is a key point, or via other third countries. So next slide there, please, Kevin. So what I just talked about were the DAFM controls, but we also have controls set out by the European Commission, and you'll see the European Commission has a website or a web page specifically on trade in organics. So this is publicly available information if you want to take a look at it. And they have a new set of what they call additional official controls that they require member states to carry out on organic products, which will be coming into place during the summer this year. So those are 50% sampling on ginger, gorgum and sesame seeds from India, and 10% sampling there on peanuts and pumpkin kernels from China, turmeric from India, flax seeds from Kazakhstan, chia seeds from Paraguay, cocoa beans from Peru, and strawberries and wheat durum from Turkey. So as I say, those controls are coming in during the summer. What you will see on the Commission website at the moment is the controls that we were required to carry out last year, but I expect that that'll be updated soon. So it's important that you're aware of those. And you'll likely get an email from us asking for something to be presented to Dublin Port for sampling at any given point, just as part of our routine sampling as well. So I think the contact details for the organic unit, if you have any questions, a lot of you as importers will be familiar with the organic imports at agriculture.gov.ie email address at the moment. That's still going to be there, just even though we're changing our advanced notification system. And then you have your phone numbers there as well to contact us if you have any specific questions on this. So that's me, Seamus, if you want to hand over to Ray.
Okay, thank you, Odile. So we'll now hand over to Ray. We have the new organic import portal, which went live on the 19th of May. And this new system is used to declare organic imports. So Ray is going to give an update on that. Thank you.
Just checking you can see my screen there. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're just going to run through then the registered imports portal, I suppose, what needs to be done and how it works. So essentially, what is the portal? It's a simple and fast way, I suppose, to log into the agfood.ie and notify the department in advance of your organic imports that will be subject to checks and inspections. So you can also use the portal then to view your submitted declarations or to upload any additional information that might be required. So it's fairly straightforward, and we're going to show you a demo of that shortly. So where can you find the imports portal? Well, the registered imports link here. So when you're logging in, you log into AgFood on the link here then, and there'll be more information available essentially then on the portal and how to register it then at www.gov.ie agriculture/Brexit. So what are the benefits really of using the registered portal? Well, it's a faster processing of your declaration. There will be details populated then because it's you're registered then, so the importer agent details will be populated on screen. It gives you the ability to view all the previously submitted import declarations that you've had. You'll also be able to search for them if you want to see the status of them. It'll also allow you then to view the last 5 application updates that have been made on your import declarations. There will be the ability as well then to for application related communications within the portal. So these are known as action requests. So if there's information that's required after you submit your declaration, that information can be uploaded via an action request on the portal. Then it'll also give you the option then to click on the COI and link out to Traces NT from the portal. So again, if you need to go back to Traces, you can do so from the portal. So what we'll do is we'll just run through essentially show you the portal and how an import declaration will be carried out. So this will be the landing page when you log in to agfood.ie. You'll enter your registered username, which will normally be an AGR number. Your password, which will so it'll be the PIN first of all. So it'll be 3 digits from the PIN number that you get, and then your password. So once you come in, then you'll be landing at the home page, and we'll be logging into the import notification and inspection system. So this essentially is the portal, and this will be the home page that you'll see. So anybody that's registered already will be familiar with this page. You'll have the option here then to see summary details. So the number of submitted applications, the number currently in progress, completed cases, and if any rejected declarations. You'll also then have the ability to click on the left here to submit a new application, or click on the application list then to view all submitted applications that you have. And I say there'll be the option within here then to filter cases. So if you know the number of your application ID, you can start typing that in here. That should, sorry, so it's on the quick search. If you look at the quick search, so that'll look at it. You'll see your application that you submitted here then, and then you can open that application if you so wish. What we'll do is we'll just run through the submission process. So as I said, so because you're registered, all your contact details will be submitted here. What we can do is, because for each registration, there's a dedicated email address. But if you're a company, I suppose that deals maybe with on the imports for a number of companies, and you have different people within that company dealing with different declarations, you can add additional contact email addresses. So if you have a and then I'll just look at to submit then the confirmation email address. What will happen is then when the import is submitted, a confirmation email would go to the registered email address, but it'll also go to the additional correspondence then. So within the applications, then it gives you the option of filtering by the applications, and we look at that after we submit this application. So contact details are, these details are pre-populated. You can add additional correspondences if you want. The date of time of arrival, so we just put an import declaration due in. And then the country of dispatch. So we've defaulted to the UK to the top of the list because that's where most imports were coming from post-Brexit. The point of entry, so these are the BCPs that Kevin and Seamus were talking about earlier on. So we'll do Dublin port, the means of transport then. So whether it's if it's a port, obviously it'll be just roll on or load on, load off. If we had selected one of the airports, then obviously the only means of transport that's pre-populated here is via airplane. So if we look at the port, the means of transport will be roll on, and then the type of, so whether it's an accompanied load or an unaccompanied load. Okay, so once we have then the country dispatch and the point of arrival, then we're into the commodity type. Now, obviously for organics food and feed, then we'll be selecting the organics food. Again, if there's any of the other commodities that require a shed in traces, then we will select either of these. So depending on the commodity type that we select, we'll be required then to enter the relevant details here then. So put in, sorry, we'll have an MRN number. Bear with me a sec. So obviously, if we enter the wrong details in the box, then you get a red line around the box. This means then you wouldn't be able to submit your application until you need to deal with all of the items outlined in red. So, you know, in this case, because we tried to submit it there, you outlined the MRN number, the COI number, and the relevant documents. So if we put in an MRN number, and then the COI number again, which would have been generated from traces. So again, that has to be in the correct format, and you see the line will go blue once we have the correct format then. So within then the attached documents, the mandatory documents have an asterisk here beside them. So in terms of organic food and feed documentation, you must submit your certificate of inspection, and you must submit a certificate of license. The other documentation then is non-mandatory. So if we go in and we just pick the COI and then the certificate of license, okay, and we just have to there's terms and conditions which need to be accepted, and then we'll submit the application. So once the details have gone through, you have the options then to make another application or to go back to the menu. So if we were to make another application, what it does, it maintains then the details that you've entered. So it maintains the contact details, the additional contacts, the date and time of arrival, and the dispatch details as well then. So the only additional information that you need to, if you're making a second declaration, would be to commodity type and then to attach any relevant documentation at that stage. The I say then, if you go into your application list, you will see then that the new declaration has been added to the top of your list here as well then. If we have a look then, you can filter the list, and this is what we're talking about, the contact details. So if I have a look at the declaration, it'll filter the list to them by the ray@ray.com who submitted that application. And then again, if there was multiple applications by that user, then you would get those details in. So that's kind of a quick run through of the imports portal itself as to how that works. So essentially, I suppose what we need to do to become an importer, well, register as an importer, and you can do that at www.gov.agriculture.brexit. I'll give you the details of how to register if you're not already done. Again, it's a timely and accurate submission of import consignment details. Again, there's that 24-hour notice that's required, so to give time for the processing and to make sure then that there'll be no delays with your application. So really what you need to have to hand, you have to need your certificate of inspection, so your COI details, the MRN which you'll get from customs on your import declaration, and then the required support and documentation, as I say, which will be the PDF of your COI and of your organic license. And just make sure, obviously, then when registering, then that you have your username, PIN, and password for the portal. And obviously, then if there's any IDs that come to you on action requests, you can use that for further correspondence. So that's essentially a rundown of the DAFM portal and how it works. And if there are any questions on that, we can either take them now or at the end of the session. And that's me, Bart. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. So I see there's a question has come in there. When importing via Northern Ireland, via BCP of Larne or Belfast, is not there as an option. I think what that question is asking is what the requirements are when importing via Northern Ireland. Maybe Kevin?
Yeah, okay. Well, in this instance here, so this is a consignment that is moving into the Northern Ireland, which is not part of our jurisdiction. So that is the reason why, you know, we don't have any authority over this. So and if the product is going from, if it's going from the GB mainland to Northern Ireland, well, that's all part of the protocol. So and then again under the protocol, products can move freely between GB and Northern Ireland, and then that product can end up in the Republic of Ireland. But and I suppose this is what a lot of the discussions are at the moment, and the issues that they have in Northern Ireland with the protocol, and the fact that there is they would see it in some elements of Northern Ireland as a border down the Irish Sea, rather than a border between the Republic and Northern Ireland. But this is the situation that is there at present, and this is what is in place for the protocol. So what we're talking about here is importation of products from third countries, including GB, for the purposes of the EU per se. Northern Ireland is part of the EU as outlined in the protocol, in the trade agreement. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. So Kevin, is the competent authority in Northern Ireland has to implement the controls in Northern Ireland that we're talking about here. Okay, so there's another question. Can product imported to the Republic then be dispatched to NI? Kevin, maybe do you want to? I suppose the answer to that question is yes.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Because product is coming into the Republic in this situation, and subsequently it's coming under the control regime, as Kevin has alluded to. Northern Ireland has to operate under EU legislation, has to operate under the organics legislation, so that consignment can then be dispatched to NI. Kevin, I don't know if you want more.
I suppose it's similar to the previous question, but in reverse, in the other way around. But yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Northern Ireland is operating under the EU legislation for the purposes of the transportation of goods, and organic goods in particular in this instance. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't see. Oh, sorry, there's another question. I am unable to see code C644 in the customs portal. Whom should I contact on this? Maybe that's for Joe Cleary in revenue.
Yeah, it should be there. It's an optional code under any of the CN codes. Essentially, any product can be imported. Well, not any product, but a lot of products can be imported as organic. If you're having trouble declaring goods as organic and using the C644 code, just contact our eCustoms help desk, and they're at ecustoms@revenue.ie, and they'll be able to sort you out there fairly quickly.
All right, thank you, Joe. And so, Joe, now that you're on, we'll pass over to you. You're going to cover the Certex single window, which will be mandatory from the 1st of March 2023. So I'll hand this over to you now.
Okay, thanks, Seamus. Good afternoon, folks. My name is Joe Cleary, and I work in eCustoms branch of Customs Division in Revenue. And as you've heard, there's a new development coming our way, which will be mandatory from the 1st of March 2023, but we're proposing to introduce it in October, November of this year. So Q4 of this year, we'll be introducing a new connection for the first time for organic certs between AIS, which is our customs import declaration system, and traces, which is where the COI certificate information is held, obviously. And the piece in between, an EU database, is called Certex. So that's what this is. That's what this presentation will be about. It'll be about the changes to the way in which you declare an organic consignment on an import declaration and the new checks that will be in place. There'll be critical pieces of information on the COI certificate that must be matched then on the import declaration, and if there's a mismatch, it could potentially cause delays for the clearance of your goods. The presentation, as I'm going through it, I'll be referring to CHED and COI certs, because essentially it's the same process for both. Very similar system. In fact, there are probably no real differences between the new system for sheds and for COIs. So I'll be constantly referring to sheds and COIs as we go through the presentation. And we've been working on this together with our colleagues in DAFM, our COI colleagues, and indeed the other units in DAFM responsible for the other shed certificates, and also with our colleagues in the HSE who were responsible for the Shed D certificates. So we've been working with them since earlier this year, and the eCustoms notification that we sent out a couple of months ago had all our names on it. So it's a joint approach. The next slide there is an illustration of the different parts of the new system, if you like. Over on the left, you have our Customs Import Declaration System, AIS, where all of the import declarations are input. Then in the middle, if you like, we have the new EU Certex system, which is the EU database that essentially will create the link between our import declaration system, AIS, and traces, which is over on the right, and obviously where you as the importers are submitting your COI information and your shed information, and DAFM and the HSE are validating or not validating the certificates, as whatever the case may be. So next slide there, Odile. So what's new? There will be two, I suppose, processes where Certex will electronically validate the data. There's two stages in it. The first stage is the certificate availability check. And the second stage then is the certificate availability check with the quantity management, which essentially is the matching of specific data between the import declaration and the COI certificate. So the first step is the validation of the shed or the COI number declared on the customs declaration. So when this development goes live, it's essential that the correct COI certificate is declared with C644, which we've mentioned already, in the relevant box on the AIS import declaration. Then we obviously check the status of the COI in traces. We do that through Certex as well, obviously, and until such time as DAFM have cleared the COI, the import declaration won't move any further. The second piece then is the verifying or matching specific data that's on the customs declaration against the equivalent data on the COI certificate. Net mass is the first one. So, for example, if you're importing an organic consignment of 50 kilos of whatever the product is, and that's declared on the COI certificate, then obviously 50 kilos must be declared on the import declaration. If 51 kilos are declared on the import declaration, then that's going to cause a mismatch, and that will cause a delay for the importation of the goods. The second check then is the CN code. The CN code that's declared on the COI certificate must be matched by the CN code on the import declaration. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail on the next slide. So I'll go on to the next slide there now. I'm not sure if the next slide has come up. It hasn't changed for me.
Critical elements there is on
critical. Yeah, okay. It's not up on mine yet, but that's fine. There are 4 critical pieces of data that are validated in AIS against the shed or the COI. The first one that I've mentioned already is the shed or the COI cert number. The second one is the net mass, and I've already mentioned the 50 kilo example. It must match or not exceed the net mass declared on the shed or the COI. So what I'm saying there is, if we take the example again of the 50 kilos, if the amount that's declared on the import declaration is 49 kilos, then that's fine. It's less than the amount that's on the COI. That will go through the quantity management check. If it's even, I mentioned the 51 kilos, obviously there's a failure, but even if it's 50.001 kilos that's declared on the import declaration, that's going to create a mismatch. And I've said that here. What I'm trying to say is there's no tolerance in the net mass figure. Less than is fine. Any amount greater than will cause a mismatch. The CN code then, the check is based on whatever number of digits are declared on the COI cert. We frequently see with the sheds and the COIs that CN codes are given only at 4-digit level, or maybe 6-digit level, or 8-digit level. Provided that those 4, 6, or 8-digit level CN code, whichever it is, matches the first 4, 6, or 8 digits on the import declaration, then that will pass the check. We always have the 10 digits on the import declaration. That's mandatory on the customs import declaration, but it's not on the COI or the shed. So long as whatever is declared on the COI or the shed matches what's on the import declaration, then that's fine. In certain cases, we've seen with sheds, certain sheds, the net mass won't be always given or can't be given. I'm not sure if that's the case with COI certificates, but if it is, we take the supplementary units figure and we match on that. So for example, there's an example with one of the sheds where for cut flowers, where it's the stem count, the number of stems that are being imported, and provided the figure that's on the shed matches the figure that's on the customs import declaration, then that's what we match on. So just I suppose to repeat, if the net mass is not available, then we match on supplementary units. Just to briefly go through, next slide there, Odile, thanks. Just to briefly go through the customs declaration sequence. When the customs declaration is submitted in AIS, as I've said, the COI certificate is validated. If the COI is valid, the AIS MRN is issued back to the declarant. If the COI number is invalid, the declaration is actually rejected and no MRN will issue. So that's the importance of having the COI certificate number right. If the shed or the COI is in progress, and obviously the certificate is valid, for whatever reason DAFM haven't validated the COI yet, then the declaration will just proceed as normal. And if the COI has been invalidated, so if it's not a valid COI when you submit your customs import declaration, we'll reject it at that point as well. So next slide, Odile. After arrival of the goods and after the customs declaration is accepted, AIS will begin polling Certex to gauge the status that the COI certificate is at. And when DAFM have validated, we're looking at a happy flow here, when DAFM have validated that the COI certificate is good to go, if you like, we will then begin our quantity management checks, as I mentioned earlier, checking the CN code, the net mass, and if necessary, the supplementary units. Next slide, Odile. And if the quantity management checks pass, the declaration will move to release. Obviously, if everything else is in order on the declaration, as in there's enough funds there to meet the customs duty and VAT, and any other risks have been controlled. If the quantity management checks fail for whatever reason, if there's a mismatch, AIS will return a message to the declarant. The reasons for the failure will be outlined in the message to the declarant. And if it's a multi-item AIS import declaration, the line item where the mismatch occurred will also be sent back to the declarant. And the declaration then will move to a status of amend by trade. So awaiting, I suppose, awaiting an amendment to be submitted by the trade. So the declarant then will amend the declaration in AIS if there's been an error in the data submitted and resubmit, or engage with the relevant area to progress the issue, either the relevant customs office or perhaps the relevant agency. Next slide, Odile. So the customs declaration then, in terms of the construct of the customs declaration in the new environment, there are two significant changes. The COI certificate must be declared at goods shipment item level on the customs declaration. What we've seen in particular with a lot of the sheds that are coming in today and are being declared on import declarations and the COIs as well, is that they're being declared at header item level. When we introduce the Certex piece later on in the year, the certificates will have to be declared at item level, or else the quantity management bit won't work. Similarly, if it's a multi-item declaration, the shed or the COI certificate number must be declared for each and every line item on the customs declaration, where the CN code requires a COI. So if you're submitting a 10-item customs declaration to us, and is there a COI certificate required for each of those 10 items, then the COI certificate must be declared 10 times at each of those, on each of those items, and that's a change. Just next slide, Odile. Just, I suppose, some feedback on some of the preliminary analysis that we've undertaken to date on sheds and COIs that we've looked at. As I've said, certificates are being declared at goods shipment level, at header level. That's not going to work when we introduce the changes. They have to be declared at item level. We have seen instances of where goods are being declared as organic and we're not getting the certificate number. That's not going to work, obviously, when we introduce the validation. If you declare C644, you'll have to declare the correct certificate number or it'll reject. So numbers must be submitted. What we've discovered recently is that, and I'm presuming it applies to COIs as well, and my colleagues in the COI unit can maybe confirm this afterwards, is that when a shed or a COI is submitted to traces, a certificate number, sorry, when it's a draft is gone into traces, traces can often give a certificate number, but it's not the correct number. And when the certificate is submitted fully into traces, you get the correct number. I suppose I just put out a warning there that we obviously need the full certificate number and not the draft number, because then there'll be a rejection, obviously. Certs are being declared under the incorrect document type, and this again goes back to the C644. We have seen COIs and sheds being declared with the incorrect C code, so that obviously won't pass checks and validation when we go live in Q4. We have seen multi-line item MRNs, so up to 150 line items on the customs declaration, referencing multiple sheds. Obviously, the system is designed to cope with that, but obviously the more complex the customs declaration and the more certificates that are referenced, the greater the risk of an error. I suppose on a positive note, what we have seen is in the main and a large percentage of cases that we've examined, the matching results in terms of the net mass and CN code are pretty good. So that's positive. Last slide then, Odile. Just, I suppose, action that can be taken now in terms of the customs import declaration process. Getting the data quality right, in other words, getting the matching right on the net mass and the CN code between the COI and the customs import declaration is something that can be done from now on. It could save a lot of mismatches when we go live in Q4. The structure of the customs declaration I've mentioned, as in we have to get the certificate numbers at line item level and not at shipment or header level. Communication of those quantities and CN codes between the different actors in the supply chain to ensure that everybody is prepared before we go live in Q4 is important. We will be going live with the business rule read a line item requirement earlier than the full live release. So we're hoping at this stage to go live with a business rule in August, September, forcing declarants to input the certificates at line item level. So when we go live with this business rule, traders actually won't be able to put in the sheds or the COIs at header level on the customs import declaration. And obviously, look, it will give you plenty of advance notification before that goes live. And then finally, we're targeting, as I said, October, November for the full live release of all of the Certex requirements. Just on the cover slide at the end, there's an email address there where you can submit questions to us, any questions you have on the customs import declaration part of it, and our colleagues' email addresses in DAFM and HSE are given there as well. So that's it. Thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Just going to questions. There's a question. What is the order of sequence of traces NT, registration on the portal, and AIS? Kevin, maybe can you take that one?
Sure, yeah. I'm just looking at so the order of sequence. I'm not seeing the questions here, but the order of sequence. Well, I suppose is it the question that's being asked is I must be registered on the traces system, but I'm also have to be registered on customs. one has to be registered on both. I'm not understanding the question. Is there more to it there, Seamus?
No, I think that's it. I think you've answered it, Kevin. I think that's
Okay.
the requirement is registration on both systems there. Yeah.
Yeah, and registration for organic importers, it's any details can be to the department here, organic imports at agriculture.gov.ie, and we'll be able to give people the procedures and the process. Yeah.
Okay. There's another question there to do with imports there from GB. If product is imported from GB as organic in GB, but not being used or sold or traded as organic, do the forms have to be filled in? I assume the forms relate to the COI.
I presume it's the COI they're talking about there, and yeah, that then they have followed up there. I think it's Joe Fitzmaurice. That is not being sold or traded as organic in Ireland. Well, I suppose the problem here is, or the issue here is, if the product comes into GB and it's labelled as organic, and any labelling related to organic would have to be removed from the packaging if you were going to sell it then as non-organic. That would appear to be the question. So I guess if it's product that's in GB that was produced organically, but now it's not to be sold organically, it mustn't have any labels, because that would be misleading. So that could be the answer to the question there.
Okay. And on the same lines, can Scottish goods still go through NI and the BCP in Belfast? Then in free circulation, I assume move in free circulation to the Republic, or do British ABP organic goods now have to go through Dublin?
Well, again, if we're talking about Scotland, it's part of GB. So the same rules for England, Scotland, Wales would apply. So Scottish product can move from Scotland to Northern Ireland, and under the control of the UK authorities, and the protocol would apply there in that case.
Okay. Do we still have to let the OCB's organic certification bodies know in advance? So I think that's in relation to the new import portal and advanced notification. Odile, do you want to take that, Odile?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a big change that's come in with the legislation, is that the advance notification is required to go to the competent authority, and not strictly to the organic control body, but the organic control body is still entitled to have sight of these if they ask you for it, particularly during your annual office inspection and that kind of thing. So in terms of advance notification of an import, no, but they can ask you for it at the same time. I would say I'd answer that, Seamus, unless you want to add anything there.
No, there's a similar question. We usually email DAFM organic section and the OCB. Does the OCB have access to the portal, or do we notify them separately?
And again, the new legislation doesn't require that the OCB is notified in advance of an import.
Yeah, so the advanced notification is on the is via the import portal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question on the slides. Will the slides be shared? Yes. If you haven't provided your email address, send in your email address to organicimports@agriculture.gov.ie and we'll send the slides out. Another question. Why can organic seed that originates in EU and is shipped to UK, not enter Ireland as organic seed, provided all information is correct. I think this has to do with the TCA, Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Who wants to take that one, Kevin?
Yeah, it is the
Or
TCA,
Odile, go ahead.
Seamus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Trade and Cooperation Agreement between the EU and the UK provides for I'm just trying to think of the products. There's certain products that can retain organic status as they leave the UK and move to any EU member state, and they would be predominantly food produced in the UK, and also food that is, so as in produced in the UK of agricultural origin, so grown or reared in the UK, but also anything that is significantly processed in the UK. So it's basically stopping that whole idea of triangular trade, where it enters the UK to go into a warehouse and maybe relabeled or not, and re-exported to the EU. At that point, it would lose its organic status. So that's what the seed issue comes down to as well.
Okay. Any further questions? To clarify, if you have a container with 50 organic items, 50 COIs must be uploaded.
No.
That might be maybe for us, is it? It depends. If there's one COI certificate covering all of the container, then that's all we need. If there's 50 different COI certificates, yeah, we need the 50 different COIs if that's what the question referred to.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Joe. Yeah.
So I think really we're saying is that it is possible to have multiple products on the one COI. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. And the COI covers the specific consignment. But that consignment can be made up of multiple products. So the next question, if the protocol collapses, do you envisage this system being introduced for products coming in through the north?
Well, I don't think any of us are in a position to answer such a question. This is the current situation is what it is at the moment, and I think that's all we can work on at the moment.
Yeah.
Seamus, there's one other question there which might be something that perhaps you would answer, and it is that they want to know if they can get a copy of the recording of the webinar and also all links and contact details.
Yeah, if you send us in your email address, and we'll follow up. Okay. So just while we're waiting for any further questions, just to state, DAFM issued a circular on the 16th of May. It was relevant to organic importers, first consignees, exporters, and OCBs. And it covers the issues, it gives the headlines on the issues that we're talking about here in terms of the new organic legislation, third country imports, advanced notification via the import portal that Ray has discussed here. It covers the COI CHED link that became operational on the 9th of May, highlighting the importance of the COI information being accurate and timely in order to facilitate efficient processing of the COI and the CHED documentation. It covers the import declarations for organic imports, and in particular the use of the codes C644 for organic products, or the code Y929 for non-organic products. It covers additional controls on imported organic products from third countries that Odile has talked about. It confirms the designated BCP's border control posts for importation of organic products that Kevin has confirmed there. So that circular is available on the DAFM website. Again, if you have any difficulties in getting that access, just email us and we'll send it out to you. Okay, so another question. If one of the COI trade links is done by checking against the CN code, how can one COI be used for a shipment containing multiple different CN codes? Who wants to take that one?
That's one for Joe.
Yeah, if there's a COI and a shed applicable to one consignment and it's across multiple line items, then we need that COI and shed declared at each line item on the import declaration. And the AIS will check both the COI data and it'll check both the shed data. And if there's any mismatches, that'll cause a problem. Does that answer the question? So you can have a combination, if you like, on the customs import declaration. You can even have two sheds. You could have a shed D and a shed P with a COI, and the three certs would have to be quoted for the relevant line item on the customs import declaration, and they may be quoted on multiple line items, and it will check. It will do, AIS will check across each of the certs and the net mass and the CN code on each of the certs. So provided they match, there'll be no problem.
Okay, thanks, Joe. The next question, if our organic product does not require a COI, will the advance notification not be required? Well, a COI is required for all organic consignments from third countries.
Well, only if it's food or feed, Seamus.
Food
If
or
it's
feed, yeah.
if it's like beauty products or whatever, no is the answer.
Yeah, and what we're talking about here, the organic legislation that I referenced earlier relates to food and feed. Okay, that seems to be, I don't see any more questions coming in. So we've been on for 1 hour and 15 minutes. There's been a lot of questions. I don't see any further questions coming in. So look, maybe I'll wrap up here. Just to summarize, a lot of new developments as regards importation of organic produce from third countries. Just another question here. Who is the point of contact for getting information on which product categories are allowed to the ROI from a third country? So that's the information on the legislation and on the TCA. You can contact organicimports@agriculture.gov.ie. And we'll give that information to you.
I suppose, Seamus, just to add to that, if people have further questions, that come to mind over the next few days, certainly email us into that same address, organicimports@agriculture.gov.ie, and we'll endeavour to answer them. Yeah.
Okay, so listen, I think we'll wrap up here now. We've summarised, we've given an update on the new developments relating to organic imports from third countries. There's new organic import legislation which is very prescriptive on what must happen and the controls that must take place. The COI shed blocking rule is now implemented. That was implemented on the 9th of May. So the COI has to be cleared in order to validate the shed. The use of the code C644 and Y929, C644 for organic consignments or non-organic Y929 is now mandatory. I suppose what is very important, we now have the new organic import portal, which went live on the 19th of May. And this system must now be used to declare organic imports to DAFM. And I suppose finally, the final new development is the new EU Certex single window, which will be coming into effect later this year, and the importance of ensuring that there's no information mismatch on the different systems, as Joe has highlighted. So looking, I want to thank our speakers, Joe from Revenue for discussing the single window, Ray Sheehy for outlining the import portal, and finally my colleagues in the organic division, Kevin McGeever and Odile Evans, for discussing the import control requirements. So the final point is, if there's any further questions, please contact us at organicimports@agriculture.gov.ie. Thank you.